that's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.
You think it would learn. Thank you for Smash Time for telling me the audio was muted. Yes, so anyway, this week I had only 3 books, so I wanted to apologize about not being able to do the show last week, but since I only had 3 books this week, I figured I'd throw all the books together. So thanks to Smash Time for the live update. Could always use someone here live to help me out. Here, let me do this. I'll give Smash Time, no, not Smash Time, ad moderator. I'm sure he's so excited for that privilege, but you are helping me, so if you see some shit you don't like, I'll let you banish it to the wastelands. They're responsibilities you didn't ask for. Anyway, so this week I'll be covering this week and last week in comics. Before I do that, I just give people a little bit extra time to show up. I bought this beautiful, beautiful box at the comic shop today. It's one of those art comic boxes, and just, my word, it's gorgeous, you know? I can't help it. It's a beautiful baby boy, and I love it. Seriously, someone call a doctor, because this is sick. I cannot tell you how excited I was when I saw that. I was almost out of the store. I had my books. I was about to leave, about to pay for them and then leave, rather. And then I just saw that. I was like, whoa! Yep, gotta buy it. These art comic boxes are really cool. I've got a couple all strewn across the room right now. That one's got like a HAL 9000 look to it. I got a DC Bombshells one back there. I got a kind of a Bombshells-inspired Wonder Woman. I've got a cool Joker one. Those are just super damn gorgeous. I really do love them. Anyway, I think that's enough preamble. Let's talk about what we'll be talking about tonight, because it is a lot of shit. Okay. So we'll be beginning with Rick and Morty, Mr. Meeseeks, Wonder Woman number 72, Superman number 12, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man number 7, The Flash number 72, Event Leviathan number 1, Silver Surfer Black number 1, Zorro Sacrilege number 2, Batman number 73, and then we'll be ending the evening off with Superman Year 1 number 1. So it's a pretty packed evening, to say the least. Alright, let's go ahead and get into it. Rick and Morty, Mr. Meeseeks. Look at me! In all honesty, I'm not a huge Rick and Morty fan, but a lot of people at my work are, so I kind of got into it vicariously through them. And instantly, Mr. Meeseeks was just such a hit character for my work group. Just constant, like, there was a couple months where just, hey, could you go do this? Oh boy! Just that like Mr. Meeseeks energy. Can do! Just popped out. It was super fun. So when I saw this on the stand, I was just like, oh yeah, I gotta get the Mr. Meeseeks book if it's just gonna be about Mr. Meeseeks. And I gotta say, it really is just a through and through Rick and Morty story, kind of about the futility of life and the ideas of trying to find meaning in the universe. So Summer uses the Mr. Meeseeks box and tells it to stir some chili for hours on end, and then she's like, there's more to life than this, and then Mr. Meeseeks is like, okay, I wonder what that is. And he presses the Mr. Meeseeks box to create another Mr. Meeseeks. to give him the answer to the meaning of life. Man, and that's just too much fun. So really, the rest of the issue is just nothing but I'm Mr. Meeseeks and them dealing with like this existential dread. Right from the get-go, I was just cracking up because they start doing some good continuity pulls. Really, like page 2 or 3 would go, I don't know, these are Romita and Jerry's computer-marked inspirations, but humanity is chaotic and miserable. How does anyone find purpose in this world? I know my purpose. And it's the fucking Butterbot to pass butter. So Mr. Meeseeks passes the butter. It's like, that was unfulfilling. I know. Then it commits suicide, but it doesn't work. And I was just, oh my god, I cracked up watching that or reading that. I was just done with it. So then the two Mr. Meeseeks kind of go off on an adventure through the Rick and Morty world, just searching for the meaning of life. So like, maybe it's charity, so they go to help a homeless person. And that doesn't really fulfill them. Maybe it's, maybe the meaning of life is just have a good time. So then they go on a crazy drug trip, and you get some really cool, fun art. I love the Mr. Meeseeks sun. That's a great visual image. And then it just keeps getting progressively crazier. They try religion, and they find a cult, and they try just all these different things to experience life. They even go and they go to the arcade and play the Roy game, and just all this craziness. They're super psyched when they find out they can die, which is just, I like that quite a bit. Eventually they get back home and they're able to find some meaning in life, which was pretty good. And I was pretty happy with that. So a pretty good issue, nice downer ending, which is always fun in a Rick and Morty thing. So this was a really good time. It definitely did feel like this could be the episode of a show if they were to do a whole episode of Mr. Meeseeks. Yeah, I really like that. It was great. Okay. I'm actually not going to be keeping this. I'm going to give it to a guy I work with at work. No shit. A guy at work who's in love with Mr. Meeseeks. I'm going to definitely have to give that to him. Hope he'll enjoy. Alright, let's go ahead and go on to Wonder Woman number 72, written by G. Wilson, with art by... Name I forget. Oh, whose name is it that I've forgotten? Oops. Oh, Asmus Merino and Tom Derenick. Derenick? So this one I'm a little, fuzzier on because it's been a week since I've read it, but the basics of it is Wonder Woman and her friend that are on this quest with this magical sword and whatnot are working on fighting this Minotaur. And it's kind of, it's a Minotaur, it's a formidable foe. When suddenly, even though they are able to defeat him, the companion is actually able to defeat the Minotaur using the magical sword. It causes the ground to kind of open up beneath their feet, and the sword gets lost in there, and all kinds of antics ensue. It's a big action issue, I guess, is what I'd really call it. There's a lot going on, but it's not much like plot development. It's just like, cool thing happens. The chasm, opens up, and the sword almost falls down, but the goddess of lust, or god of lust, whatever, manages to grab it in time, but then there are a bunch of like fishman monsters, and the three of them have to work together to stop them and save the day. And so it's just kind of a cool action fight issue. Really, just get some fantastic art in this issue. I can't lie, I really do like that panel there. That's great. I'm usually not a huge fan of Wonder Woman just like killing random monsters, but it's done well enough for the story. These things do seem kind of like, the Reach in Aquaman or something, just mindless beasts kind of thing. And so that I tend to be more fine with. Some of the art, I guess I can tell that there's two artists on it, because this panel does not look at all like it's necessarily the same artist. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I'm not going to say I can't be, but that just doesn't look like it has as much detail put into it. But yeah, they find the sword points light in a direction, and they just kind of go following it, and then it comes out dimension shy, some kind of weird island mystical thing. I don't really know where they are, but hey, we'll see as this goes on. Should be a good time. Overall, fine issue. Kind of wraps up the arc. G. Wilson's clearly building something here. There's a lot going on with this kind of like quest for Olympus thing. I guess that would be like the main, like, if she got like a big omnibuy of her run or something like that, an omnibus of her run, it would be like, the quest for Olympus or something like that, because they're looking for what happened to it. So yeah, just kind of continuing the story. Nothing great, but nothing bad. Just man, I'm having a day of it. Alright, let's go ahead and go on and talk about Superman number 12. It's fine. Again, I'm still not a huge fan of the Superman book since John's been aged up. As that goes on more and more, I'm beginning to think that it's just not going to stick. I really just don't know what to do with that. Supergirl kind of shows up and helps save the day in this giant space battle that they're all in, and God, Ivan Reis is just literally amazing. Like, even though I'm not super into the story in this right now, I gotta say, the art in here has just been incredible. Ivan Reis does make this book worth buying to me. If I weren't into his art, I think I'd just be done with this series right now. But interestingly, in the John Kent stuff, I did quite like this panel of Crypto catching up with John again. In the John Kent stuff, we get a development in which he goes off with Supergirl at the end of this issue to help her with the problems she's encountering, which is interesting. I don't really know what's going on in her book. I'm not particularly interested. I've heard mixed things at best. So anyways, John goes off to help Supergirl, and that really does make me scratch my head, because this is at issue 12. Adventures of the Super Sons is at issue 11. 12 will be out sometime in July. And Adventures of the Super Sons number 1 is set before the events of Superman number 1, or whatever. Man of Steel, that's it. The Man of Steel, where Bendis started his run. It's set before those events. But John has mentioned several times throughout that run, or throughout the last couple issues at least, that Rex Luthor has ruined and taken up his whole summer. And Bendis implied that John left with Jor-El at the beginning of summer. And so I'm really beginning to wonder, especially if John's leaving the book right now to go space hopping with Kara, and currently in Adventures of the Super Sons, the boys are trapped in a dimension, space hopping, trying to get back to Earth. There's no John Kent on Earth right now. Are these two different aged versions of him gonna hop back to Earth at the same time and get combined into one or something? Is some crazy comic booky bullshit about to happen? I don't know. I'm definitely curious to see. But I gotta say, I'm starting to get mighty suspicious. John has been aged up, sadly, for a couple months now. And Bendis is the only one doing anything with it. Everyone else at DC, John Kent is still 10 years old. And so I'm beginning to wonder if this is a very temporary thing. There's kind of a weird take that Bendis has about how Superman and Kryptonians can just slip into super speed and have like conversations and stuff. And I don't really know what to think about that. Because, like, it's technically true. Because as you move faster, your perception of time slows down. As you move faster, your experiences in time slow down. Everything else is moving slower compared to you. So, the idea to be able to slip into super speed and have a conversation in super speed is an interesting idea on some level, but it does almost seem like Bendis is using it quite a bit. I can't help but feel like he maybe found a new toy. He's like, oh, cool, I can do this now because obviously this has to work and it's just a cool opportunity that I have with him. Guess. It's not like I've not seen that. Like, I know there's a scene in Injustice where that happens, and I'm sure plenty of the Flash books have done it. But, I don't know. It's weird that, like, Superman and Zod just kind of, like, are at locked fists and slip into super speed to have this conversation and then slip back out. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that works. Anyway. Otherwise, just a fine issue. Next, the real, actual truth about Krypton. Oh, Jesus Christ. We shall see, I suppose. We shall see. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and go on and talk about Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man number 7. So the last couple issues have been more standalone-y, and this one seems to be more about like the idea of the arcs and stuff. But man, oh man, did I love the beginning of this book. We get a flashback where Uncle Ben and Peter and Aunt May are out, and Ben gives Peter some money and tells him to give it to a homeless guy. And Peter says, what happens if he spends it on something bad? And May says, that's not for us to judge, that's not what helping is about. If we insist our help has to be used a certain way, then we're just taking something else from him. I don't know what he'll use it for, Peter. What I do know is someone needed help. And we don't walk past that. And then it cuts to the modern day, and there's a homeless guy begging on the street, and some jerk, yippy-looking type starts beating the crap out of him, stepping on his hand, kicking his money over, telling him that he doesn't belong here, he needs to get out. And then Spider-Man webs his ass, shoves his face in the pavement, and says, okay, give me your money, give me your wallet and your phone. He's like, are you mugging me? What? No. I can see how you'd think that, given that I just assaulted you and took your wallet and phone. And then Spider-Man calls the cops and gives them this guy's information because he's just committed assault against a homeless person. And he's like, yeah, and I'm webbing him up for you. He'll be right there. And then he's like talking to the homeless guy and goes, oh, hey, here's this pamphlet for this shelter that's opening up tonight. You should go there. And that's just a really, really great, refreshing scene. I really like how that works off. And it totally plays to that Peter Parker, Spidey, weird awkwardness. It's like, hey, give me your wallet and your phone. Am I being mugged by Spider-Man? Tom Taylor doesn't understand Spider-Man at all. He's committed crimes in this book. He mugged a guy. He stole a car. Oh, that's good. So yeah, good opener there. And then it gets more archy, where we're dealing with May and her cancer treatment. There's a huge bill. Apparently, insurance isn't covering all of her treatment. She opens her homeless shelter, and then unfortunately a bunch of rich business types come in and tell her, hey, fuck off with this, you're gonna ruin our property values and stuff. And she's like, that's not okay. Cut to later that night, and Peter's in his apartment, and finds out that the homeless shelter is being broken into, and his evil supervillain roommate actually goes to try to help, because otherwise he might have to pay the bills on his own, and have to find other roommates that will put up with his bullshit. So Spider-Man goes, and Boomerang goes, and Boomerang sees Spider-Man. Looks like he's trying to break in. When suddenly a window crashes, and the Prowler starts attacking Peter. And Boomerang decides to help and throw an explosive boomerang at the Prowler. It blows up buildings, causing all these kinds of problems. So things don't go super well, and that's kind of where the issue ends with the fire in the homeless shelter. Then that's no good. Yeah. I don't know. Pretty good issue. Again, I like these standalone issues a lot more than I do these arc-based things, but I've gotten a couple of those now in between issues, so I'm much more okay with doing some of the arc stuff. Like, we got the Spider Bite issue and stuff, and that was pretty good, so getting this more arc-based kind of thing, I'm digging a lot more. Good issue. Alright. Let's go ahead and go on and talk about The Flash, number 72. Hey, another year one. This is chapter 3 of The Flash year one. And I gotta say, I am getting kind of into it. I can't lie. It's making choices that do legitimately surprise me. And I'm happy about that, if nothing else. It doesn't feel as... like, it's still relatively predictable, but it doesn't feel as predictable. We are covering a lot of ground in between some of these issues, and I really appreciate that. I was really ready for this to kind of drag, but this does actually feel like, oh, by the time this story arc's over, it's actually going to cover a year. So, like, Barry and Iris are... is it Iris? Yeah. Barry and Iris are on, like, one of their first hot dates kind of things, and she's like, hey, listen, I'm not really in any mood to get dinner right away, if you catch my drift. And he's like, oh. And then she's like, oh, shit. Sorry, work, I gotta go. And he's like, no, it's fine. And then she goes, and she's trying to track down this guy who looks like he maybe committed a murder or something. She's trying to break this story on him. She confronts him, but then that's a bad idea because she gets shot at. But luckily Barry was there, and he comes in and grabs the bullets in time, and takes off in a flash. And then it cuts to, like, Barry getting home, and he wasn't fast enough. And that's okay. Wow. I'm not necessarily prepared for that. I'm not necessarily expecting that. I think that's a good cliffhanger, and I feel like it's earned, it's nice, it's dramatic, and there was enough covered in the issue that I don't feel like I was just waiting for something dramatic to happen, or just waiting for story to happen. I gotta say, Joshua Williamson is not my favorite writer or anything working at DC, but I think he's a very competent guy. I think he does know his stuff. I think when he's got a premise, he knows how to run with it. When he's got a mandate, he knows how to make it work, if nothing else. He's not the best writer at DC by a long shot, probably, and definitely not even, like, in my top 10 of just, like, current writers or anything like that. But I do think he's very effective. He's nice, solid, dependable kind of quality. I don't see a lot of trends, particularly negative trends, popping up in his stuff. Like, I read his story and I don't feel like I read this last time, and when you're doing Justice League Odyssey, I read this story already. I quite like his stuff. I think it's pretty solid overall. Alrighty, let's go ahead and go on to Event Leviathan number 1. So this spin out of the Leviathan Strikes, or the Leviathan Rising, whatever it was. It's just about like, okay, so a bunch of the secret organizations in DC have been completely wiped out in one fell swoop almost. So what's left? What's going on? And it's about the world's greatest detectives trying to figure that out. So we got like Batman investigating the scene when he bumps into Lois Lane, who's investigating the scene at the DOD. When they bump into Steve Trevor, who was there when everything went to shit. And, the kind of the funny thing is DC's got so many giant, secret organizations. You got the DOD, you got Spiral, you got the fucking, what else? There's just all these big secret spy groups. Actually, he lined it out for me just a couple pages ago. I should have paid attention. Okay, so just different groups that you have. You got Cobra, Task Force X, Brother Eye, Spiral, the DEO, and then you got like Cadmus and all these other secret government-y organizations that exist to kind of put superheroes in check, so as it were. And it's funny when you think about all of those things at one time existing in DC, because it's kind of a lot. And so that's kind of, it becomes very obvious that kind of the purpose of this event is to try to clean house a bit on that and deal with the fact that there are so many of them and kind of, maybe get rid of some. Or condense them. And so I kind of dig that. Anyway, Steve Trevor kind of goes through what he experienced when this whole shit show happened with Leviathan striking. And then Batman and Steve Trevor and Lois Lane kind of put it together. They're all the suspects. They're all being set up as the perfect scapegoat of who's actually Leviathan, who's behind all this. They all have the motivation. They all have the possibility. And then, of course, Green Arrow and the Question show up, also investigating it. And so it's just this idea of, like, everyone kind of looks guilty, and that's the point, is to make everyone look guilty, to make people questioning each other, so that no one goes after Leviathan themselves. And so that's kind of, it's not bad. It's all right. I kind of dig it. I'm trying to be fair to Bendis. I am actually relatively excited by DC, really hoarding and bringing in such a big name from another company, that I do kind of want to support the move, even when some of his decisions have been counter to my preferences. So yeah. Overall, I thought the issue was fine. 6 issues on this. I'll give it another go. I'll give Event Leviathan number 2 a go and see how I'm feeling after that. Let me put it that way. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and go on to Silver Surfer Black number 1. This is written by Donny Cates with art by Tradd Moore and Dave Stewart. What's Dave Stewart doing on this? Oh, coloring. Okay. So, in the events of Guardians of the Galaxy number 1, a bunch of the cosmic Marvel characters were thrown into a black hole, Silver Surfer included. He worked really hard to try to get everyone out of that situation, and in doing so, kind of doomed himself so that he had to stay behind and things just did not go well for him. And he kind of just got sucked down the black hole to the other side. I gotta say, a lot of people were talking about how great Tradmore's art was. I don't like it very much. It's like uncomfortably weird to me, which could be really cool in a Silver Surfer book, but I don't know. There's just like this weird line that it's crossing for me, and it doesn't seem to work. Like Silver Surfer, I get that he's an alien, but he looks so alien there, in a really unappealing way. Like, I feel like that panel, whatever you want to call it, that pose is supposed to look all, powerful and heroic as he kind of saves the day, and then gets caught in this black hole, and it just looks weird. The anatomy looks so bony and unpleasant. He's got muscles where he shouldn't have them, and things just look odd. I like the layouts. I like the way the page flows, but God, a lot of the art here really did distract the hell out of me, and I had a hard time with the art. It doesn't help that I'm coming to this relatively shortly after finishing the Silver Surfer run by Dan Slott and Mike Allred, and I adore Mike Allred's art, and this is kind of halfway across the spectrum. There's just stuff here that I'm like, I don't know. Some of this stuff, like this sequence, I thought was really cool as he creates the board from himself. I thought that was kind of neat, and like how it's visualized was neat. But I just don't know if the art style is really for me. It's definitely experimental. It definitely feels different, but it did not work for me at all. Anyway, he languishes in the black hole for an unknown amount of time. I guess it says 4 years. So I guess he's languishing and kind of just falling in this black hole for years, unknown number of years. In which he finally sees the light and uses the power cosmic that he has left to exit, and finds himself in front of this gate that's being guarded. This very penis-y gate. And he asks for help from the guards, and they turn him away and then start attacking him, and so he's got to use the last vestiges of his power to take them out, and effectively kill them. And then the gate swings open for him to enter, after he uses his power cosmic to create a miniature sun to burn them all away. But that uses up some of what he has left of it, so he's just got this blackened hand where the silver can't go. And then the gate opens up and he gets, yanked in. And the voice on the other side says, "Hello, little son. Well met. I am Null. You may call me God." And this has got an interesting look to it. I like the art on the villain here. Is it just me, or is that like a symbiote Spider-Man symbol? Does that look like Venom's symbol on the chest? I don't know. So we'll see where this goes. I am definitely interested enough to keep reading this and just see what it turns into. So I'll probably give it, 5-6 issues, see how it turns out. Even though the art doesn't quite do it for me. Alrighty, let's go ahead and go on and talk about... A Geek for Fun and McPick are saying Null is the god of symbiotes. Cool. Okay, interesting. I didn't realize that. Neat. we'll see what that develops into. Let's go ahead and go on, though, to Zorro Sacrilege, number 2. It's funny, I complained about the first issue of this. I had a really, really bad misprint, and the writer, Mark Wolfman, if I'm not mistaken? Mike Wolfer, sorry, Mark Wolfman. Mike Wolfer commented, he's like, "You're the only person I've heard have that problem. Where'd you get the book?" I'm like, weird. It's not that big a deal. I mean, it's comics. It's a couple bucks. I'm not going to pitch a fit over it. Just in case you're listening, hi Mike, thanks for checking out my review. So this kind of picks up where the last issue left off. This native that was captured and is being tortured. One of the priests was killed by some kind of dark magic. And that kind of sets the stage for Zorro to start doing some investigation. You know, first is Don Diego. So he's like trying to talk to the natives, and he's like, "Have you seen this symbol? Because it was apparently found in the church." And as he starts to draw it, the native woman, you know, splotches it out and says, "You can't represent that. That's evil. It'll bring the whole world down," kind of thing. But then Zorro continues to pry and investigate, and he gets in a fight with some guards, and he's, you know, being his flamboyant self, and stands upon the altar and continues to taunt them. And then one of the guards says, "You dare stand on the altar? That is sacrilege, sacrilege!" And then suddenly that seems to be the word to allow the demon or whatever through, and that's where you start to get the supernatural stuff. And that's just a cool-ass image. Sacrilege. I really dug that. Just this hand erupting from some poor guy's throat as it screams sacrilege and starts to attack Zorro, and it says to Zorro, "You will end this. What sprang from your blood can only end by your hand." And so we're setting up like a crazy mystery, and then the guy bursts into flames and his body collapses. And then the other guard that's there gets his throat slit by the native woman, and then the dead begin to rise. So we're getting, you know, again, the thing about this American mythology, Zorro run seems to be, okay, let's do the supernatural with Zorro just to spice up, do some variety, and I'm quite enjoying that. It's a fun idea, and it's being done well. Is it gonna like blow you away? This is the best Zorro run ever. You must read this to really understand the character. No. But I think it's definitely being told with all the trappings of a Zorro story. It's definitely written by someone who understands Zorro, and it's experimenting with the character, which, you know, the character is 100 years old. We should probably try that a little bit more. Maybe if he isn't trapped in one single era, more people will give a shit about him. So yeah, that's really refreshing as a Zorro fan. Just see something different. You know, you gotta appreciate that if nothing else. Alrighty, let's go ahead and go on and talk about Batman number 73. Every issue of King's Run now just feels like a little more painful. Now that I know it's not going to get to that full 100, even if the story's going to be completed in Batcat. So I'm gonna do it, and you'll just have to be okay with that. How often at night, when the heavens are bright with the light of the glittering stars, I stand there amazed, and I ask as I gaze, does the glory exceed that of ours? Oh, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day. Where the air is so pure, and the zephyr so free, and the breeze is so balmy and light, that I wouldn't exchange my home on the range for all the cities of Bright. Oh, give me a home where the buffaloes roam, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day. You're welcome. My beautiful voice improves that so much. Yeah, so Thomas Wayne is singing Home on the Range as he rides through the desert with Bruce Wayne, on his horse's back, and they drag a coffin behind him. And that's like, well, okay. They're attacked several times while in the desert by ninjas, as you do. And it takes Bruce a couple days, at least, to wake up and realize what his father is doing, or even realize that he's with his father. And Bruce initially starts by attacking Thomas, and says, "It's okay to be scared. Everyone gets scared. Just means you get the chance, you get to fight that fear." And I was like, whoa, that's a callback, and I really, really like it. And eventually, he kind of gets Bruce to calm down, and says, and kind of reveals, I helped Bane. I did it. And now here we are in the desert, going somewhere where you'll be able to figure it out. Kadim. They're going to Kadim. And Thomas has fixed Bruce up from Bane's latest thrashing of him, and has said that he's got a plan. And then it's kind of revealed that what's in the coffin that they're dragging is Martha Wayne's body, and they're going to Kadim, which is under the control of Ra's al Ghul. They're going to resurrect Martha Wayne, and everything's going to be okay. They're going to be a happy family. And yeah, that's it's a little creepy, it's a little weird, and at the same time, I can buy it, The idea that Batman has been beaten by Bane, and that now he's got the chance to be with his father and mother again. It's a weird one. It's a strange direction I was not expecting, but I can see it. I could see him going for it, or at least being conflicted by it. So it's an interesting idea. We shall see where the issue continues on to. Perhaps somewhere where the deer and the antelope roam. No, the deer and the antelope play. It's the buffalo that roam. I'm so sorry. Alright. Let's go ahead and move on and talk about Superman Year 1, number 1, by Frank fucking Miller, with art by John Romita Jr. What? When DC announced its Black Label line, they started with a couple, key features, as it were. One of them was Batman Damned by Brian Azzarello and Lee Bermejo. I'm like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Another was Wonder Woman by Kelly Sue DeConnick. I'm like, okay, yeah, getting another well-known writer on this character with a harder edge to it. That makes sense. I believe Tom King's Sanctuary is still slated for Black Label. Then we've also got the other history of the DC Universe coming in. That's going to be a Black Label book. But I think everyone will admit that Frank Miller on Superman Year 1 was the biggest what? of that initial lineup. And I gotta tell you, I was not ready. I did not know what to expect going into this, because for years, Frank Miller has said, no, I like Superman. I made him the bad guy in Dark Knight Returns because that was a story about Batman. Let me write Superman and I will show you a good Superman. And I'm like, well, no, because it kind of seems like everything that Superman's about, you're totally not. And also, now you're crazy. And I'm like, I don't know what this is gonna be. And so I was very interested to read this. It's like almost like a morbid curiosity about what this book was going to be. And so, that being said, just issue 1, this is not awful. It's not necessarily great or good even. It's definitely got its moments. Despite Frank Miller's myriad of problems as a writer, the man can do one thing like nobody else. And that is fucking narrate the hell out of shit. Just great lines of narration. I always... Frank Miller needs to learn to stop writing dialogue and just do narration. I cannot tell you how much I dig Frank Miller's ability to narrate. I really like this one where really young Clark Kent is trying to sleep on a summer's night. Most nights he stays in bed like he should, but those nights are tough on account of all the sounds. One of those nights when you're so dog-tired you know you've got to lie down. You've got to lie down and try to get some sleep, but you know there's no sleeping. It's too darn hot for sleeping, so you sweat your pillow soggy. And all the night sounds come at you. Crickets scratch their legs against each other and chirp fast like crazy car alarms. The frogs come right back at them. A fleet of angry city buses, and it sounds like a war out there, until one killer owl silences them all with a fast string of hoots. And then it all starts up again. It's enough to rattle your teeth. The quiet country life, they say. Frank Miller just needs to do narration. Can you imagine, if we got Morgan Freeman to read Frank Miller written narration? There's, so many great lines in here. Where's the one about summer? That was my favorite. Did I miss it already? Did I skip over it? Yes. I did skip over it. I gotta find the summer one. Okay. So, we have this scene where, Martha and John are watching, 2-year-old Clark, bounce and leap across a field. And they're trying to keep up with them, and they just can't. And Martha says, I swear one of these days that boy is just going to stay up there and never come back down. Never come back to us. Oh! You do get around, don't you, darling? And he's just back at her feet. And then it's a nice wide shot of the farm, and then it says, and summer does as summer does, too good to last. Everything goes cool, breezes carry a feast of smells, and everywhere in crazy, wild chorus, life chitters and chirps and croaks and claws and complains. It's fall. It's glorious. And everything smells really good. Especially food. I'm just like, oh God, Frank Miller knows how to do narration. There's no argument there. Where I start to have some of the problems with this book is more in the dialogue. I gotta say, yeah, I get that the Kents are country folk, but at the same time, whew, this may be a little much on the old country accent. Here I am, Caustic, you old reprobate, you put your back into your work, you hear? And Mr. Granger, my good man, pull me up a good passel of rhubarb, would you? I'll be fixing pies for this week's social. Martha? I found me a something. He came out of a rocket what dropped straight out the sky. Heaven sent. A gift from on high? I'm just like, whoa, that you can hear the country in that. And I'm like, really, Frank Miller? Was that... Boys! That's what it feels like, almost cringe. That's like a step too far. Also, Frank Miller seems to be implying that baby Superman has mind control powers, which is odd at the very least. I can't quite figure that one out. So like, seriously, Jonathan Kent finds baby Clark in the field, and he picks him up, and he says, it's alright, everything's going to be alright. Picking the tyke up is like hefting an engine block. What the heck is this kid made of? John Kent feels something probing inside his skull. A gentle warmth makes him feel like his brain is floating. The boy coos, pleased. This is not a hostile. Let him take you to your new home. Let him think this is all his idea. And I'm like, what? So baby Clark mind controls Jonathan Kent into thinking that he needs to take him home. That's a weird idea. I don't get that one. And then there's other stuff where I'm like, okay, yeah, I can see that. John Romita Jr. is an artist I actually do kind of dig, but Jesus Christ, young Clark Kent has a big ass head. I just found that very distracting. I had to admit, I was not ready for that. There's other stuff in here I think is pretty good though as it goes on. Like him and Jonathan playing catch, and then them talking about, oh man, it's gonna, he has to do it so lightly, otherwise he'll tear right through Pop's glove or barrel the ball right through his chest. I was like, okay, all right, I dig that. And then Clark goes off to school, and he's got a group of friends that are kind of like weirdos and outcasts or whatever, but at the same time, people are beginning to suspect things of him. I like when this goth kid tries to stab Clark's hand and his pen just explodes. And so Clark's like, he's got these friends that are kind of outcasts and nerds, and they're dealing with bullies, and so Clark decides, all right, fine, I'm going to stand up to them, because it's kind of what his dad's implying. They're sitting around the dinner table talking about it, and I do like the scene. Not going to lie, I do like the scene. So what the heck do I do? Do I talk to those bullies, or do I just flatten them? I won't have any more words of violence at my table. First you talk to them, then you flatten them. Not one more word, Pa. Oh, Ma, my pals are scared all the time. They're scared. I could fix that. I could fix that real good. Nobody's doubting that. Better do what your Ma says. Yes, you'd better. I won't have you getting yourself hurt, nor, Lord forbid, you hurting somebody else. And I'm like, that's an interesting scene. I like the idea of Clark, his first big challenge is what to do about bullies. And then it goes like, his friends are walking down the street and they get egged, and then, Clark just is like, all right, I'm having enough of it. I'm confronting them. And he tosses them. He completely ruins them in seconds, and they kind of run off, and it ends up like getting called to the office, and the bully kid gets suspended for a couple days, and Clark gets, he has to help the janitor and yada yada. And then like Jonathan comes and he talks to him at night. I can't lie. A lot of these scenes are actually really, really good Superman scenes. Like, some of this stuff really does feel like great Superman writing. After Clark gets in trouble for getting in a fight. But is it bullying to fight back? Somebody's got to take on the bad guys. Oh, nobody's really bad, darling. Some people just get confused. So Mark Ham's just confused if he punches my pal Pete in the face. Jonathan comes in and is like, that's right, son. You're just confused if you turn around and you flatten his sorry butt. Just kidding, of course. Later, Clark's room. Doc Savage doesn't walk away. Knock, knock. You know, your mom's as fine a woman as you'll ever meet, but nobody's always right about everything, Clark. See, you do gotta take the high road, and maybe you'll get yourself taken advantage of a little bit now and then. But you're nobody's doormat, Clark Kent. No, you're something this world's never seen before, and you're going to change it just by being there. So change it for the better. Well, I can't lie. That's really good. That's like a really fucking good scene. Everything about me is like, oh, Frank Miller, but like, god damn, I can't help it. That's good Superman stuff. That's the Jonathan Kent, Clark Kent relationship I really like. I think that really works. And what's interesting is what happens after Clark had confronted the bullies. It got worse. His friends started getting hurt worse. Markham again went after Carlos hard, called him a spick and punched his face in, knocked a tooth clean out of his face, the big kind. Don't make no big deal out of it, I'll be okay. They didn't scare, not for all that long. They didn't, you can't just scare them off. That's not the way. Clark, Mr. Floyd, he's seen the whole thing and he didn't do a damn thing about it. Clark, not a damn thing. They don't scare. They got the teacher scared. They can do whatever they want, and they know it. They don't scare. He just made things worse. He blew it. The idea that standing up to a bully when you have superpowers doesn't in fact make the bully back down, but just makes the bully find ways to attack people when you're not around, is a really interesting idea for a Superman origin story. And then, like, they keep getting bolder. They spray paint the bus, and Clark gets on the bus, and all of his friends are hurt. Markham kept saying your name, Clark. Oh, no. He said it was real dangerous being your friend. He said it could get a guy killed. Get a guy killed. His mind races. It's just like Pa said. Don't go showing off. Liable to get somebody hurt. Liable to get somebody killed. There's got to be another way, a better way. And Clark's got to find it. And so that's... I think this right here is the point at which it gets the most Miller. Here, going forward to the end of the issue, is when things really start to get very Miller-esque. And, yeah, in kind of the bad way. There's still things I really like coming up, but there's other things where I'm like, no. So Clark's kind of, revealed what the way to deal with them is. And it's Lana Lang showing him, hey, I've been taking pictures of what these guys are doing. We can use that against them. The cops won't be scared of them, even if the teachers are. And so, they arrange for Clark to go over to Lana's house late at night when, but some of the bullies, hear about it, and they go, try to cut Lana off, and take the photos. And that part, I'm totally cool with. I think that's a really, really clever plot turn, and that scene, structurally really works. Where it goes wrong is this. They take the pictures from Lana. Alright, you've got what you want, you thugs. You've ruined my story and protected your rotten buddy. Nice start. We're done with business. Time for pleasure. Long-legged Lana Lang, the living legend, running all around, stirring up all kinds of trouble, asking all kinds of questions, taking all kinds of pictures. And she's like, I know you, Travis, and you, Chartrad. I know all of you, and I know your parents. Sounds like you know too much, and you see too much, and you talk too much, and you take too many damn pictures. Now where's that camera? Don't touch me. Oh, we'll touch you good. And I'm like, no, you didn't need to put a rape scene in there. You really didn't. Like, I'll give Frank Miller credit. They don't rape a teenager. The Superman stops that, but you didn't need the rape scene. It worked perfectly well when they're just there and they take the pictures. It'd be fine if they were going to rough her up. It would be scummy and villainy. The rape imagery takes it a step too far. The implication, they don't even get there. They don't take off anything or anything like that. She's definitely not sexualized in the scene, so I'll give JR some credit for that. But you didn't. It's just so unnecessary, and it just has such a vibe to it that feels so anti-Superman in a weird way. Smash time in the comments. Yeah, the rape attempt scene was way too much in a Superman book. Yeah, it's just, if it were Batman, I'd maybe be a little more lenient on it. Obviously, Frank Miller's got a history with that in Batman, but still, I'd be willing to give it more of a pass because that just fits Batman's world a little bit more. But it's fucking Smallville. And not even that, like, you know, it's not like small towns are immune from sexual assault and sexual violence. This scene is structured where these bullies have way too much power and have, you know, just kind of run at the town because it seems everyone's got this boys will be boys attitude. And so the idea of, could they threaten to rape someone? Could that be a thing? Yeah, totally. And if that was more of the focus, if that was like what was going to drive things and that was like showing you the extent to which they're willing to go, that'd be one thing. But this just feels like something else added on top of shit we already know about these guys, simply for dramatic effect. Geeks for Fun in the comments, Alfie says, I'm not surprised at all. And neither am I, which is really disappointing because I was pretty damn surprised with how well I thought some of this was written up to that point. And at that point, there's still some good that's on the way here. There's still some stuff that I think is legit great Superman writing. But it gets very Miller for pretty much the rest of this. So Clark beats up the bullies before, you know, they can rape Lana Lang. Reveals his powers to Lana by flying her home to safety. They start a relationship, and, you know, she realizes that he's just studying super fast, and he's like reading books and just leafing through them. And she goes, how much of all of that you keep in your head, Mr. Speed Reader? Fair amount. Enough to say so. I like that. Oh, Jake Carlson's here. Hey, Jake. Long time no see. We're just talking about Superman Year One, the oddest book ever. And, you know, like, there's some stuff in here, like Lana and Superman's relationship. Lana and Clark's relationship I quite like. It's fun. It's cute. It's got that young love feel. He's got this country boy thing. I really like this moment where he's, like, dancing in the night sky, flying across the sky because he's super happy. That's really cool. We flash forward, obviously, at some point here, and Clark's on the football team, and this is one of those things where I'm like, yeah, that's really unnecessary and actually kind of antithetical to the story, where Clark decides, you know what, this is my last game or whatever, and so I'm going to really show everyone what I can do, and he intercepts a pass and runs it to the goal, even though he's got like 12 guys trying to tackle him, and he's able to win the game for Smallville High. I'm like, that's kind of power fantasy-ish, but okay. And then he like is working on the farm with his dad and says, "Hey, yeah, actually, I'm gonna join the Navy because I want to see the world and I want to start with the ocean." And that was kind of the idea that I'm like, I'm like, I don't quite. Part of me, if this were not Frank Miller, let me put it that way. If this were not Frank Miller, I would be inclined to be generous and say, you know, maybe they're going to have him join the military because that's kind of that is seen as the honorable, just, good person thing to do. When you're kind of like small American town, I mean, hell, I'm in Fort Wayne. It's not exactly a small town, but that's definitely seen that way here. But maybe he's going to join and then like get really disillusioned with it, realize that it's not what it's cracked up to be, and that'll kind of inform the character. That seems like a perfectly reasonable place things could go, and who knows, maybe Miller will do it. But knowing Miller, there's this weird separation because Miller will talk about dirty cops and do stuff with like, you know, authority figures abusing their power a lot, but he seems to have a soft spot for the troops, and he seems to let military stuff kind of slide a little bit more. Not government stuff, but military, which is interesting. So I don't know. We'll see how that develops. And again, it's not that it's not... Okay, we get kind of in Martha's head a little bit. Martha Kent greets that husband of hers and that son of hers politely. She asks polite questions. None of their answers are acceptable. She asks more polite questions. She hears about Clark's plans. She hears all about Clark's idiotic plans. She hears all about Clark's very dangerous plans. Those plans that will waste his magnificent powers and abilities. Those insane plans that will let them reformat Clark's brain and turn him into some kind of robot, some kind of war machine. Clark's plans will get the young fool killed. They're taking her boy away from her, and here he keeps saying everything's going to be okay. Nothing's going to be okay. Nothing ever going to be okay. Nothing's ever going to be the same. He's leaving. Clark Kent is leaving home. So, like, that scene in particular, reformat his brain, the wording of that is very important. And so, again, if it were anyone else, I'd say maybe they're planning, especially just based on that, maybe they're planning to have him get kind of disillusioned with the military, which could be a super interesting story. I could see Superman, joining the military and then realizing that it's not what it's advertised as being. We've all seen the American military ads on television. So I could see that, and that could be an interesting direction to go with Superman. Again, I just worry because it's Miller, and we got a rape threat in a Smallville era Superman book, and I'm like, already there's some stuff. Like, I like the Pa Kent scene. I like the idea of bullies. It's not all undercut by the attempted rape, but you lost some credibility pretty goddamn quick, I gotta say. And then there's one last scene that I do really like in this book, as Clark is on the bus to naval camp, or whatever you want to call it. He decides to use his powers and kind of look back one last time, look, miles and miles across the road to see Lana Lang sitting on her roof with a note, and she's just holding it up in the distance because she knows Clark will see it. It says, "I love you, and I'll miss you." That's a really sweet scene. I really like that one. Again, I don't know. We'll see. There's part of me that is just way too curious. And I gotta say, attempted rape aside, This is nowhere near as bad as I thought it could have been. That's kind of the best thing I can say about it. I was really worried that this was going to be kind of like legendary bad, like, you know, what are you, dense, Lana? Are you retarded or something? I'm the goddamn Superman. Like, I was worried we were going to get that level of bullshit, and we don't. We don't. There's one kind of like, cringy moment. Otherwise, it ranges from good to okay. So, I don't know, we'll see. Alfie in the comments says, Frank Miller's Superman, something he really wanted to do, you can tell. It comes across. He's got some great ideas still, but like, even his best work, it's got some extremely suspect shit. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm landing on it, where I'm like, oh, Frank Miller, I can't help but like some of your stuff. There's a truly great writer in Frank Miller. And sometimes it just gets overclouded by some just whoa moments. You know, I probably shouldn't read Frank Miller, you know, new work at least, on principle because of shit like Holy Terror. But at the same time, I can't help it. It's at the very least it's intriguing, and I think everyone has to admit that. So yeah, that's my take on Superman Year One #1. That's my episode of comic reviews for the evening. Everyone, I hope you had a really good time watching. I again, sorry about last week. Hope you enjoyed the catch-up session from this week. Until next time, everyone, thanks for watching. Bye.